Well, guys, in this video, I figured I would spend some time talking about China and Taiwan. After seeing some headlines recently, China's military exercises last week looked like a rehearsal, according to top U.S. expert in the Pacific. And we know China wants Taiwan back. They originally controlled Taiwan under the Qing dynasty. They lost it to Japan during their territorial expansion. The World War II era, Japan was obsessed with controlling airspace in the Pacific. They had a bunch of those islands. And then when Japan had the nuke dropped on them, of course, they surrender. China controlled Taiwan again. And then there was a civil war in China in 1949. And the defectors, the losers of that civil war, went to Taiwan. And they were ruled by a dictator until like 1996. And now they've got a democracy and the United States supports them. It would be like the United States having another civil war and the losers of that civil war going to Hawaii and then saying we want to be an independent country, but the United States looking at Hawaii possibly as a military area. Obviously, China wants to control Taiwan. There's a lot of ports in that area, a lot of trade, and you do have the Philippines to the south. Believe it or not, if you look at the geography of Taiwan, to the east of Taiwan, there are several different islands. They're all controlled by Japan. I think the biggest island is actually a protected rainforest. But that's not the point. The point is we know that China wants Taiwan. Why are they not doing anything? They've had like 3 or 4 rehearsals right now. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump, Biden. Biden coming out and admitting, yes, Trump was right back in 2015 when he said we needed to protect the country and actually build a wall. And now Biden's admitting it, but he's gaslighting Americans, saying that he always wanted a strong border when the Democrats initially said that Trump was this disgusting racist for wanting a strong border and for wanting a wall. So we'll discuss that. And then we've got Star Wars apparently going full gay in their new movie. It is June, and there's an interesting thing with it being June. We're seeing less and less sports teams come out and virtue signal and change all their, logos and their Twitter avatars to the gay pride colors. Less and less of those teams are doing it. It is affecting their bottom line. But let's get to the details. Another rehearsal, another military exercise. China surrounded Taiwan during 2-day exercises demonstrating what an assault could look like. It's remarkable to see this and actually see the map of these exercises. It's like they're taunting Taiwan. Where else do you see this? You've got a massive country, inland country, surrounding an island doing these exercises. They've made it known they want Taiwan, and it's like they force other countries not to recognize Taiwan as their own independent country. The United States doesn't. Like, if you look at Taiwan and they're in like a baseball tournament, they're not even recognized as Taiwan. They're basically recognized as a subsidiary to China. So it is remarkable. It's the biggest kept secret. It's like a Cold War 2.0, China and Taiwan, and Biden has come out. The United States in general, the narrative is, yes, we will use military force to protect Taiwan from China. Now, if you just look at the map, it would seem kind of hard for the United States to actually do that, considering the proximity of China and Taiwan. Theoretically, it'd be a lot easier for China, and this would be the strategy. They want to create a blockade preventing American support to Taiwan. I guess the biggest question is, and this is something that it seemed like in 2018, 2019, the dialogue was always, well, when we get one of these major invasions, that's going to be World War III. That's going to be possibly a nuclear holocaust. But we didn't get that when Russia invaded Ukraine. And that's a whole nother situation. But I'm just saying there is some optimism to where we can have these wars, even in the 21st century, even with all these nukes, to where it doesn't turn crazy deadly. Of course, that is a double-edged sword. Russia tomorrow could get pissed off at NATO, maybe the support, and just decide to launch a nuke, and then that's it, right? So it's like, well, it hasn't happened yet, but if it does happen tomorrow, obviously it really doesn't matter that it hasn't happened yet. I'm not going to get into Russia, Ukraine, things like that. I think Russia will end up taking the eastern parts of Ukraine, and there'll be some type of settlement. That's why the idea of Trump coming into office is intriguing for a lot of people, because Trump might be able to kickstart peace talk and the dialogue surrounding Russia and Ukraine, possibly cutting off some funding to Ukraine to force peace. I know people will say, well, you're giving Putin what he wants. No, not really. Putin wanted about half of Ukraine. He's really struggled. They've wasted a lot of resources fighting pretty much a useless war. And it would be good for America at this point to try and negotiate peace and to say, listen, you can have the eastern parts. I mean, most of those people want to be Russian anyways. They all speak it. And negotiate some type of peace between the countries. The wild card is we really don't know exactly what Putin wants. He might say, no, we don't want that. We want more land. And the problem with many of these mainstream Democrats, they just will not negotiate with Russia. And now they're so obsessed with defending Ukraine. A lot of people want Ukraine in NATO. What a mess that would be. You're really tempting World War III if you bring Ukraine into NATO. I've said for a while, I think NATO at this point, we've got enough members. And this whole thing with like NATO and protecting each other and things like that, it's completely ridiculous. Like, which European country is going to send Taiwan a significant amount of support? None of them will. It's going to be the United States footing the entire military bill to try and protect Taiwan from China. The issue with NATO, and I'm not saying NATO is bad, and I'm not going to get into a NATO thing, but the problem is when NATO was made after World War II, the United States was on a lot more of an equal footing in terms of military force with all of those top European countries. So it made sense. Well, now the United States and our capitalist economy has grown so much to a point where we're lapping every country, including China, although China's trying to catch up. And China and Taiwan, in comparison to Russia and Ukraine, I think what'll happen with China and Taiwan, right now China is basically trying to use what I would consider internet warfare. They're trying to demoralize the Taiwanese and brainwash them into wanting to join China. They want to do it like, oh, they want to join, and this is why it's happening. We're going to take over Taiwan. We're going to control all their ports because they want it. So right now they're going through a big propaganda program. I don't know, this has been reported in Taiwan, and they're trying to demoralize the citizens and almost brainwash them into joining. So that's what they're trying right now. Listen, I don't know when they'll actually invade, if they will. I think it'd be very hard for the United States to stop that. You'd be dealing with another war in the Pacific, a World War II 2.0, I guess you could say. And I don't think it would, well, listen, I don't know what it would lead to. It's impossible to say. Nobody really knows. I mean, remember the first days of Russia invading Ukraine and basically everyone saying, well, look at the military sizes, look at the money. Obviously, Ukraine could possibly, fall in 3 or 4 days. Kiev was going to fall within a week, and it never happened. So the moral of the story is predicting how these wars are going to go. It's very hard. So I obviously the United States has said they will defend Taiwan. I think if you're China, the strategy around that is the brainwashing and saying, well, look, the Taiwanese actually want to be part of China. And that's what I think is going on there. So we'll see what happens with that situation. But this is another rehearsal, and they literally mock Taiwan by surrounding the entire island. And, oh, it's just an exercise. They're obviously trying to intimidate Taiwan with the surrounding military presence. And then I just want to do a few minutes on the Biden stuff and then talk about Star Wars, what's going on with that. So we've got Biden yesterday coming out. And guys, understand a few things even going into this announcement by Biden. There's a few different things you need to know. This dates back to 2015, the summer of 2015, when Trump came out and said he was running for president and said one of the big things is, listen, I want to build the wall. I want to secure the border. Liberals try and dunk on Trump by saying Mexico never paid for it. Yeah, because, listen, if Trump really wanted Mexico to pay for it, Mexico would be paying for it. It's just, the NATO countries would not like the force that we would have to impose onto Mexico to force them to pay for that wall. But yes, we can make Mexico pay for it. We're just nice. Let's make that clear. But Trump comes out, he says he wants the wall. How about Mexico and the person that they just recently elected? It's a total mess down there. But you've got that, and then the liberal response to that was, and this was before Trump was even leading in all the Republican polls back in the primaries in 2015, They got so triggered, they lost their minds. They called Trump a racist. Anytime you speak of illegal immigration, illegals entering the country, you're racist, you're disgusting, you hate foreign people, you hate minorities. And now you're seeing Biden in terms of approval rating among immigration policies. He's like -40, -38. It's the most historic thing. And now Biden in an election year, and believe it or not, even with how crazy the immigration is, it's record highs, and they're underreporting the record highs. The numbers are actually worse. They're trying to sugarcoat it. But if this wasn't an election year, I don't even think Biden would be doing this. The only reason he's doing this is because it's an election year, because his approval rating, when you factor in immigration and only immigration, it's -35, -36. Biden comes out. I would have preferred to address our issues at the border through bipartisan legislation, because that's the only way to actually fix our broken system. But Republicans in Congress have left me no choice. So the gaslighting, Biden, when he comes into office in 2020, destroys it. And here it is right now, January 20th of 2021. By the way, remember the narrative? Trump and January 6th, they disrupted the peaceful transfer of power. Meanwhile, Biden was scheduled to come into the White House on January 20th, and he came into the White House on January 20th. But no, January 6th is worse than 9/11. I remember, they destroyed Minneapolis and things like, oh wait, that was BLM, I'm sorry. But take a look at this. Proclamation on the termination of emergency with respect to the southern border of the United States and redirection of funds that were diverted to the border wall. And Biden ran, and he actually said and admitted, he was like, this is totally racist. You're spending too much. He said in a debate, we want more people to come into the country. Well, you got your wish. And now Biden gaslights conservatives and said, it's your fault the border problem is a mess, when Biden defunded all of the Trump border policies. It's total lunacy. Nobody buys this. And Biden, the reason his approval rating is so low, it really is due to leadership. It's a lack of leadership. And he's not even taking accountability. If you're Biden, why can't you just say, listen, yes, we had the liberal gimmick where we thought if you didn't let illegals in, it was racist. We're sorry. Obviously, when you're bordered by a third world country, you need to have a strong border. That was our fault. That was our bad. We agree with Trump now. We'll admit it. We're big enough to do that. He can't say that. He has to do this gaslighting. We had this bipartisan deal. Oh, wait, Democrats wanted 5 other things within the deal that weren't related to border policy, and then they blame conservatives. It's just hilarious how that works. So this is a huge win for Trump. This is a massive victory lap. Again, this dates back to 2015 when liberals made their stance known that if you hate illegal immigration, you are racist. And now they're forced to, just like little thieves, because the 2024 election is coming and they're trying to remain in power. They're finally forced to say, all right, you know what? We need to protect the border. I'm going to put in this policy. Please vote for me. And then in 2025, I'm sure it'll go back to, well, actually, maybe it won't go back, but still, this whole thing's just ridiculous. And then just a quick minute on the Star Wars stuff. Apparently, Star Wars has dropped a gay bomb. Quote, the new Star Wars is the gayest one yet. There's a lot of film experts coming out and admitting and saying it's crazy what Star Wars is doing. Apparently, in this new film, Chewbacca comes out as gender neutral. R2-D2 is gay. Apparently R2-D2 and Chewbacca are dating. And see, this is the lunacy that you have to deal with when it comes to these modern films. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.